Welcome to the Old Man Orange podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
Been all kinds of fun stuff going on, I guess, or maybe not really. Actually, the movies have been very dry. It's been kind of bumming me out. I'm like, what the hell? Why is there nothing out in theaters? Like, none of these movies I want to see. Where's something good? But instead, I've been watching Spider-Man the Animated Series to make up for that lost cause.
I was kind of wondering, like, you mean the old one by 20th Century Fox?
Yeah, the 90's one.
I wonder how that holds up. Because I remember that was really good when I was a kid. I'm not sure, but you sometimes go back to things and it just doesn't hold up. So I was wondering how that one is. Is it like animated Batman animated series or?
Well, it's weird because there's some people out there that go like, oh yeah, that one doesn't hold up very well at all. And it's like, I watch them like, dude, it's just as good as, I remember it. I will say this, it's like, I don't think it's up to par and maybe as Batman or X-Men, but even as a kid, I thought that the same way too. I was like, I like Spider-Man, don't get me wrong, a lot, but I don't think it's nearly as good as X-Men or Batman. I think that was like the gold standard of like 90's cartoons.
I was kind of thinking regarding that, because I think the real reason why Spider-Man and X-Men were both popular with our generation was because we had two major cartoons that were on a major like kid programming network or programming block or whatever. And they did have an Iron Man cartoon, they did have a Fantastic Four cartoon, and an Incredible Hulk cartoon on like from the same studios, but they weren't nearly as popular. Barely anybody remembers them. I think the Iron Man one was only one season, and they were on like UPN at weird times.
Well, I was gonna say that's the main reason why, because like a lot of those shows, I didn't even know those existed till till only like a handful of years ago. And I think the thing is, and they're all made by different cartoon companies. I mean, they kind of have a similar feel, but they're each one sort of different. Even Spider-Man, the X-Men, it has a completely different animation style. It's like, well, I think as a kid, it felt like it was kind of the same, but as watching it, because I just watched the episode 2 where Spider-Man like has the crossover with the X-Men, and it's like it's all the same voice actors, but you can tell that the animation is just a little bit different because it's just somebody else drawing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the main reason why the Iron Man, the Hulk, and the Fantastic Four show weren't nearly as popular is just the fact it's like in the early 90's, like not that many people had cable or satellite yet. You know what I mean? So it's like I think that's how a lot of people missed out on it. Or if they did, maybe if they had satellite, they probably didn't get UPN. Or if they appeared on something else. I don't know if all those ones appeared on UPN or if they were spread out on more networks.
I just remember like a couple random episodes of Iron Man. Don't really remember it that well, but I remember just 90's Tony Stark with like fucking a mullet, shirtless, hitting a hammer down against something to make the suit.
See, I've always wanted to. One of these days, I want to buy that one. Check it out. I bought the.
Sounds very gay when I say it that way, but there's something pretty metal about it. No pun intended.
Yeah. Well, it's like I bought the Fantastic. Once I knew there was the Fantastic Four one, because I literally thought the Fantastic Four was like, I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna be like in the exact same style as like X-Men or something like that. So I bought that one, and that show's kind of fun, but it feels more like it was an 80's cartoon than it does a 90's, if that makes any sense.
I remember it feeling kind of like the Mega Man cartoon.
Well, because it has a I don't know, to me it feels more in line with something like Transformers or G.I. Joe or even like Captain Planet, because it's kind of got like, even like the theme song, it's like, here comes the Four, Fantastic Four, something like that. And then it's always like in each episode, the thing's always like, oh, I'm fucking pissed. And everybody's like, okay, Thing, calm down. We're trying to do science here. He's like, fuck science, fuck you, Reed, and fuck Johnny. I'm doing my own thing. Which is mostly always a good thing in the Fantastic Four. Whenever he gets to the point where he's like, fuck everybody, I'm doing my own thing, you're like, oh, this is going to be a good episode.
Who needs science when I got my fist?
Yeah, exactly.
Gonna punch the problems out of everything.
But that one literally comes across, like, I'll say, like, the vibe that show gives is literally a Saturday morning cartoon. Where X-Men doesn't really have, it's the same with, like, Batman. Like, it doesn't come across as, like, Saturday morning cartoon, it doesn't have that feel of, like, where people describe, like, oh, it's like waking up, got my bowl of sugary cereal, I'm in my pajamas. Like, X-Men to me doesn't have that feel. X-Men almost is like a serious show, kind of like Batman. It's like, oh, no, that's like, you should be putting on your nice clothes and sitting down in a well-lit or like a dark theater to watch this stuff.
Well, Batman also had storylines about real estate and like rent control buildings. So, Like
Well,
things
yeah,
you couldn't really like. There's like those. They were clearly they weren't there. They make it like Batman was always like. I'm not just saying this because it's my favorite character, but Batman was always like it's appropriate enough for a kid, and every once in a while you have like a kid episode where it's a couple kids stumble across Batman, they hide him in their basement or whatever, keeping him from the Penguin. But usually it was something like, oh no, it's just appropriate enough for a kid. Really, someone in their like late teens to early 20s could enjoy this if they wanted to.
Exactly. Well, also if like I think of Spider-Man and X-Men, like this was a big deal back in the day. As I remember, there was when they did I think it was when it was the Weapon X episode was coming out. Like they didn't show it like on Saturday morning. They didn't show it like on a weekday, or well, they showed it on a weekday, but they showed it at prime time at 8 o'clock at night, along with Spider-Man 2. I think the Spider-Man episode was when like I think it might have been when the 3 like robot spiders and scorpion things returned. But they played those like that's how serious they treated the Weapon X episode. Is like, oh no, that's going to be on when like everybody will see it.
Mm-hmm. No,
I think that
oh, go ahead.
That was a big deal.
I remember. I want to say Batman was on primetime for a little while. For a little while, I want to say it was on primetime on Fox, Fox, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. None of those shows were ever on primetime. Batman came on because this is how I remember.
Batman Beyond premiered on primetime. The first
they might have premieres or specials, but in general, like Batman played at like somewhere like 5 o'clock. I want to say because I remember it went Batman, Saved by the Bell, Baywatch. That's how it rolled.
It was the lead up to it. It seemed like it was progressively getting dumber.
Yeah, so well, yeah, I guess by that standard, but it was just like it was weird because as a kid, you just sat there and you watched that fat block of shows because
the most intellectual show is the first one, and it's a cartoon where a guy dresses like a bat. That says something right there.
Such a weird, yeah, it was such a weird lineup because Batman kind of, I guess you could say Batman sort of ended like the cartoon block because it probably went from like 3. Well, sometimes they don't. I remember like lots of times they would start like some cartoons at like 2 o'clock. You're like 2 o'clock. I'm not even off of school yet. Who the hell's here to watch this?
I think that was just their B shit. Like, well, here's like for the kids and some kind of special program where they get the boot out early because the state doesn't want to pay for them, or it's something kind of like that.
Or yeah, or sometimes they put maybe something like a little bit older. Like they might put like, oh, here's a G.I. Joe rerun or something like that.
Or just like
for those kids that are already have ditched school,
ditched school or they're homesick. Because I remember that was the thing. I remember like. When I was a kid and I was like sick, I'm like, oh, I'm sick, but at least I got to watch Nickelodeon all day. Oh, fuck, Nick Jr. I forgot about this thing,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember the Dick Jr. things and things like that.
You say Dick Jr.?
Oh, no, I said Nick Jr.
Dick Jr.
That's the one that comes on late night. It's like once you get past like Nick at night, you get to Dick at night.
What freaks me out? I actually, I didn't actually see it on TV, but somebody was talking about Ren and Stimpy, and they played like an old clip of Ren and Stimpy, and they had the Nick at Night logo in the corner. So now they're at the point where Nick at Night, they play old, like, maybe other stuff, but they play apparently old Nicktoon reruns, which kind of freaks me out. So yeah, that was the time, like, all right, kids, go the fuck to bed. It's time for the newlyweds, or the honey.
Yeah, and you get Sanford and Son, and you get, like, because that was, like, the way that I watched so much, like, classic stuff. And I think sometimes I've just kind of realized that nowadays, I think there's certain, like, younger kids that, I don't know, to us, I've come to the conclusion. It's like, I notice with people like of our generation and back, it's like, not only did you watch like what was brand new at the time, but you also got so much like retro stuff all without even kind of realizing it. Because, you would have something like, Nick at Night or TV Land, or they would just play old episodes of something like Andy Griffith or Leave It to Beaver. And I think that was just common. Or nowadays, if you're living in like this, Netflix age, you're not going to watch Andy Griffith or something like that because you're like, well, I got all these choices. Why the hell am I going to sit down and watch this old black and white thing? Where for us, it was like, well, there's an Andy Griffith. It comes on right after Baywatch or something. It probably came on in the morning. You know what I mean? But like, you only had so many channels to watch, so you literally just watched what was on. It was just like, that was your choice. It's like, this is what God has chosen for us.
Well, think about it. If you had like the option, like, all right, here you go. Black and white shit. Most of these people are dead. 80% of the jokes are going to go over your head because you weren't there for it. Or what we got, a network or whatever you want, whatever the fuck you want, anime, comic books, whatever, at your fingertips. I think, in all honesty, I don't think we would have been so kind of like prone to like retro stuff if we didn't kind of grow up when we did.
Well, I think so, because I think just by talking to a lot of like younger people, it's like a lot of them are just like the retro thing is not a popular thing with young people. It makes sense too, because I look at all like the Twitter people of all like the kind of like the retro gaming people. Well, they're all like people from like our age to like 50. There's like nobody really young in that section. It's all just a bunch of like older guys like, remember the 80s and 90s? Yeah, those were great. Remember when we used to play Mega Man? Yeah, I love Mega Man. You know, and that's like what it ends up in the day. And then people pull out like, hey, look at my ColecoVision. Like, dude, I love fucking ColecoVision. Where like a kid's like, dude, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like waving around your old technology. Like, hey, we like our old technology, damn it.
Here's the thing. It's kind of 360 back around. Remember that era when they were just like, oh my God, every first-person shooter is World War II. Can we just get a break from World War II? Now we're just kind of 360 back around. Now kids are like, oh my God, see the thing for the new Call of Duty? Oh, what's the new Call of Duty? It's in World War II!
Well, you know why? It's because they weren't there for that era of like Medal of Honor and early Call of Duty and all that stuff, because they were all like fucking like infants at that time. So to them, this is like, oh, dude, this is so brand new. Like, I don't know why nobody's thought about doing World War II before. And it's kind of like, yeah, we had a glory period. It happened because of Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private who? You know, like the fucking Steven Spielberg movie. Oh, that sounds old. You must be really old. Maybe.
I'm not sure if I said this on the show. There was one time I was over at Fisherman's Wharf. I was working, and they just play whatever top 40 shit comes on there. It could be older top 40 stuff or newer top 40 stuff. And something from Green Day's American Idiot came on. Maybe it was Boulevard of Broken Dreams. And I said something like, man, this makes me think of high school. This girl I'm working with, she's a little younger. She's just like, why is that? I'm like, well, this came out the year I graduated high school. She looks at me, she's like, damn. And she like looks at me like, she's like, were you sad when like Kurt Cobain died? I'm like, I was like 4 when he died, but I mean, I was sad when I found out later.
It was him. I thought that he might have been involved with O.J. Simpson. You know, it all just started running together at that time period. You just saw news clips, and then you just pieced it together in your childlike brain.
Did you, by chance, I actually already know the answer, but I'm going to just take a shot in the dark. Did you, by chance, watch the O.J. Simpson bio, like the what's it called? American Crime, People versus O.J. Simpson?
No. It's like one of those ones like, dude, I was there in the 90s. I didn't need to watch. Like, to me, it's like one of those ones like...
I didn't really I wasn't really paying attention. I just remember stuff about a white Bronco and and you know, just like everyone, like the divide in the country. But I actually watched the series, the FX series on Netflix. It's a mini series. It's like 13 or 14 episodes, and they go in detail of it. And it's actually, I thought it was going to be very dry and boring, but it was actually, they found a way to make it entertaining. It felt kind of like an Aaron Sorkin or a Martin Scorsese kind of thing.
Huh. Well, I'll say this. This is like... courtroom dramas is one of my least favorite genres. So if there's mostly a court involved, I tend to stay away. I don't know why it is. It's like... I mean, I remember when I was watching Ted 2, and they go to the court part, I'm like, oh, crap, I hope this movie doesn't turn into be one of these ones where it's like the next half of the movie's all in the courtroom. I was like, oh, no, that was just like 10 minutes and they're done, if that even. But no, it's like, so like whenever I see courtroom stuff, it's like, that's just really not for me.
I guess it's one of those things that really pointed out some things. It's kind of weird. Like, part of me is like, why are we talking about O.J. Simpson now? And you kind of see the divide it had in Los Angeles and all that. Like, oh, wow, this is actually pretty relevant. This is kind of happening all over again to a certain extent. So, and it's actually, they find a way to make it like, they even kind of humanize certain characters enough. Like, they kind of humanize, it's not all black and white. I mean, they do portray, OJ, as he more than likely did it, but they actually found a way to kind of like humanize Robert Kardashian, which I didn't think was possible. So,
yeah. So I'm not saying anything against like, I mean, like obviously it's probably a pretty darn good show, especially if you're into that kind of stuff.
Cuba Gooding Jr. plays OJ.
And isn't John Travolta in it too?
Yeah, he plays. I forget the lawyer, but he plays the shit heel of the Dream Team.
I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those ones like, yeah, probably a good show, but yeah, it's not really, I guess, my thing.
I will say it's weird.
It is definitely
like more
takes me back to that Batman Xmen era. It's like all at the same time period.
They play. Speaking of Batman, they do play "Kissed by a Rose" in there at some point. So it is kind of one of those. They do have a lot of like little nods of like current things going on at that time. But there was what was I going to say regarding that? It is one of those things where when you watch it, I was feeling myself being kind of like, oh yeah, that. I didn't really remember like because there's certain things I remember hearing about over here, like whatever, that's grown up talk. It's out of my hands. But now actually seeing all this stuff there, I'm like, oh, I remember this. I kind of remember that.
Well, because it's all like pieces. It's like, you know what I mean? As a kid, you just, because once again, you'd be watching like, say, Batman, and all of a sudden, like, the news would come on at like 5:30, and it would just kind of stay on because what else were you going to choose? And those things would start flashing up on there and everything like that.
I find myself now, it's kind of weird. I'm starting to watch a little bit. I'm just, I don't know, trying to stretch in a different muscle, I guess. I watched that documentary on the Oklahoma City bombing on Netflix. All I've been really doing is just watching depressing shit lately.
You're just watching depressing stuff, but it's all about the 90s, so it's maybe like sort of.
I remember this. Well, I remember where I was when the Oklahoma bombing happened, and I didn't realize how much of like Red State was based off like the events leading up to the Oklahoma bombing. I mean, I knew that kind of stuff happened, but it was like, oh, this is partially what inspired Red State, definitely.
Huh. It was funny. I was talking to a guy, and I was going on about this whole long thing about like N64. I was like, dude, I like love this part about 64. And I was like, I bought this like new thing. It's called like an EverDrive. Well, it's not new, but it's been around for a while. But what it is it's a cartridge, and they make them for Super Nintendo, Genesis, regular Nintendo, so on. And what it has in it, it's a little SD card, so you can literally stick ROMs on it, but play it like on the original system. And here's the thing: it's like, okay, you take something like N64. It's kind of hard to emulate that on other things. You know what I mean? Like, you could play a Super Nintendo game on your PC with, like, an Xbox controller. It's really not that big of a deal. You know, and vice versa. You know, you could play, like, a Genesis game on, like, your Wii, and it works fine. But, like, a 64, it's like, I mean, you take, like let's take, like, the Zelda 4-pack that came out for GameCube. Though it's really cool, it's always one of those ones where you were playing it, you're like, you know what would make this better? An N64 controller.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those things I can see. There's like always that learning curve when you're playing something on an emulator.
Well, I think it's that, but you know, as I said, like something like, you know, like a Super Nintendo game that translates really well. You know, you pick up like the Xbox controller, and it's, you know, it's got the buttons pretty much in the same place, and everything feels the same there. It's just that 64 controller is so unique. You know, it's really probably the most unique controller of them all. Like, it really does not translate well to other stuff. So I was like, oh, awesome. I'll just get this EverDrive one, you know, and then I can just play all kinds of 64 games, but actually on the system. And I was going on this long speech like, oh, my God, I fucking love N64. And this kid just kind of looks at me and he goes, yeah, that was before my time. Which just really made me feel
I just didn't
like,
want to stop. You looked like you're kind of going in your old man ramblings, and I was told to respect my elders, so I just let him continue on.
Yeah, it was just one of those ones. It's like, oh.
Do you remember in N64? This is literally becoming the old crusty old fuck cast with old video games and cartoons.
Yeah, that's the Old Man Orange Show where we bitch about the youth.
Get off our goddamn lawn and our retro channels, making fun of our ways. No, do you remember those when the N64 first came out? And this is just, I don't know, this is kind of a dumb thing, but do you remember there'd be those kids like when you first look at the 64 controller, like how the fuck do I hold this? Like, oh, okay, I'll just grab onto the middle one, and then the right one, the middle handle, and the right handle most of the time. And then there'd be the one dumbass kid who tries to hold the whole thing like on both sides, and his fingers can't reach the joysticks. Says the N64 is fucking stupid. Like, why? Well, the way your finger can't reach it, you just grab the middle handlebar. You're just like, yeah, it's not supposed to be that way. I don't want to have the other one there. Just like, oh, what the? And there'd be like the one or two like 64 games that you actually use the far left handlebar.
Well, you use it for like fighting games.
Yeah, it would actually throw you off when you actually get it.
Or it's like, I remember like, you know, one of the few games I'd use that on is like Resident Evil 2 because it was just a little bit easier off the D-pad than the joystick. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's like you very rarely use the D-pad on there. And plus that D-pad was kind of like, it was kind of a large D-pad at the end of the day, which I guess is good or bad depending on who you are.
I remember I used it for Mischief Makers, just fucking.
I never played for Mischief Makers.
Yeah, I never really actually played the game that much. I just threw shit around causing mischief, I guess. There's probably something you're supposed to do. There's just something really fun with that great game, just grabbing a random person and just chucking them against the fucking wall. You're like, hey, knock it off, and just keep on doing it. No. It was like a successor to like Grand Theft Auto to some extent.
Oh yeah, and like almost like a prequel to it is, did you ever play Ristar by Sonic Team?
Oh yeah, the Baby Shaker.
Yeah, where you like grab somebody, you're like strangle them, then like you let go of the button, and then you like literally like fly into him as a star and like blast him away. Titanfall is like one of the most violent games when you kind of think about it. And you can sit there and hold him and like strangle him to like the death.
I like
then,
the idea of his hands just like, just like this very happy, colorful background, this little star guy with these stretchy arms. They'll see his hands reach out, just strangle some like cute looking enemy, because they never look all that bad in the games. You always kind of feel bad for killing a Koopa Troopa or a Waddle Dee in Kirby. And just see him just like, shh, shh, shh.
I know. And he's doing it from like a distance too, which he's just got strangle hands.
And his eyes are just wide, like he's biting his lower lip, like exhaling, like.
Well, then also too, because he's like shaking too. He's like shaking, so it's like very intense, like.
And what if the music cut out and you just hear just like the other guy, and like his feet are just kicking, like that long choke scene, like in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, exactly. And then like it's just kind of like the picture starts fading out of color. It just starts going a little bit black and white.
10 points. Just continue on.
Ristar was
kicks into play again.
Ristar is one of those fun games. It's like the mini things. Whenever I think of so many like Sega games, I always go, "Gosh, it's like Sega has, they probably have a bigger catalog than probably Nintendo does of their own stuff." And the sad part is there's so many games that they have that I feel like they'll probably never ever touch ever again.
Jet Grand Radio.
Yeah, well, it's just like those ones like Sega does not need. Sega could make no more new games. I mean, like as far as like new series, and they could just go back and just keep making brand new stuff of their old games, and they would be good for the rest of their life. But I don't know why it's like either. It's almost like they just need like a really good company to come in and be like, hey, we'll make these games for you. You can be the producer on it, but let us handle the game and then just make some badass. I mean, like you think like Shinobi, Streets of Rage, you got Golden Axe, you got Jet Grind Radio. I mean, there's so many games that like they have. It's just like Ristar. I mean, like you could make another Ristar. I mean, I don't know what you could do, but it would make for like. I always just feel like when you look at some of those.
I'm just imagining motion graphics for that thing just strangling somebody with like the with the Switch controls.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, it's one of those ones like, what? This is the other thing I think that like Sega should do is take all those like people that make those kind of, hip indie games on PS4 and Xbox and Steam and all that stuff. Get one of those teams and just say, hey, you guys want to work for Sega? We'll pay you to make like a Ristar game, but do it like, get like somebody like Way Forward to like go. It's like, hey, well, maybe not Ristar, but take something like that and go, hey. You make a really sweet game, or get like even like the Shovel Knight guys. Like, hey, you guys want to make a Shinobi game or something like that?
Well, I feel like those guys are.
They're probably
isn't the guy who did the guy who's actually heading Sonic Mania? Didn't he make like a Sonic fan game?
No, well that guy's Christian Whitehead. I want to say the guy's name is, and he just made those like awesome Sonic ports for like the iPhone and any phone in general. Because those ports, because I always say like Sonic the Hedgehog was like the perfect game for like a cell phone, because it works like he actually works well on a touchscreen because he only needs one button to jump and move, and like all those versions like Sonic 2, Sonic and CD and Sonic 1, like they're like the best versions of Sonic. They're like really dialed in. They like add in extra things like you can play as Tails in Sonic CD, and you can play as something else like that. I'm always kind of surprised they never did Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles on there. I don't know what that's all about, but so when I saw that guy's name on there, that made me more excited than anything else. Because I'm like, oh, dude, I trust that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's one person or if that's just like a team name or what, but
well, they're definitely
like it's just one person. It's just like, oh, Sega's got me locked down here.
They're definitely kind of going with a retro vibe for it. Even the cover art, and even kind of the way the characters look, like they're designed like they came out like in 1992 or 1993. Even like just the poster art for it. I was also gonna say, I think that's almost kind of like a big divide between, because you got like this. I have this one friend, and she was telling me that she had a friend who worked at Sega as an intern, and his job was to answer all the fan mail from Sonic the Hedgehog fans. And he like knew of Sonic. He's like, oh yeah, Sonic's cool, whatever. Not like really a huge fan, but it was just, hey, it's an intern job, cool.
I say, don't you kind of hate that when people get hired there and they're like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I sort of know what Sonic is. It's kind of like.
Yeah,
that's always how it is. You like hear those people, and it's almost like they're like, "Yeah, I just need a job, whatever. I got this job. Like, don't really care for Sega, but well, I don't like video games to tell you the truth. And you're like,
I don't know the guy, but I'm just she was saying like he knew of Sonic and he liked Sonic, but it was just more of an intern. I have no idea the guy, but yeah, I get what you mean. There you do hear that stuff so often. I don't know if the guy was that douchey about it, but yeah, but he ended up getting a job over there, and he said like a lot of the crazy fan art stuff like would come in like just like fetish drawings of Sonic. This is what you should do for the next Sonic game, or like that's actually where they got the idea of giving Shadow a gun. Someone said, we should give Sonic a gun in the game. There's a little kid with a drawing of a gun. Like he said, he saw a lot of that kind of shit. So it's one of those things, you hear that kind of fan basis. And I feel like, I mean, there's always probably been like, I'm a huge Sonic fan, but there's always been like really weird out there folks who like Sonic for other reasons. And I feel like that there's almost a huge divide now. Because now you get people like you and me who see like the old school version of it. And, I was probably a big fan of Sonic up until, like, Adventure 2 or even Heroes. And I still like the games. They're fun. Those ones are. But that's where they start to kind of go off the rails for me. And ever since then, it's been an up and down process. But, a good one might come out, then a bad one might come out, whatever. But this one seems to be kind of like, no, we're just going with the three that everybody likes: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles. We're not even taking a chance on Amy. And out of that, we're also making it look like that. Because a lot of people, a lot of the more weirder out there Sonic fans, they like all the extra characters. They like Cream the Rabbit or Silver the Hedgehog or Big the Cat or whatever the fuck.
Well, because in a sense, I'll say this: that's like Generation 2 of Sonic fans. Mm. Because, we would be like early, like, okay, I remember the days when Sonic just ran from left to right, and every once in a while, maybe the other direction.
It was just him versus the Fat Man, and we were grateful.
Well, and then I think there's the kids that, like, their Sonic, they didn't really play the original ones. They started right in, like, the Sonic Adventure time period and up. So as kids, they played Sonic Adventure and Sonic Heroes and, Shadow the Hedgehog and blah, 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 blah. And to them, that's their Sonic. So I think that's almost like what separates it there. And, they watch Sonic X as their main show. Because Sonic X was like, yeah, I watched that one. But, it's the Saturday morning one that was my kind of Sonic.
Yeah. Well, even Sonic X brought in a lot of the other characters, too. That actually, I watched a few episodes of it. And I actually just watched the comparison of it one time. The 4Kids dub and the actual version. And that show, keep in mind, Japanese, like, G is RPG-13. So there's actually episodes where, like, in English, Sonic be speaking in Japanese, but got frustrated. He says, like, shit! And, like, ran off the screen. Or, like, Robotnik flips the bird, yelling.
Oh, yeah, I know, exactly. There's much more different things like that there. But, there's all kinds of... And I think that's just the difference, though. You got these different people kind of watching different things, and that's kind of... it makes sense for anything. It's like, I guess you could say the same thing with Mario. That's why you get something like New Super Mario Brothers later in life, where they're almost going like, hey, you remember like 1985 Mario, not like 1995 Mario?
Well, I feel like Mario's always been sort of
he stayed a little bit more
classic. He's always remained classic, just with a couple weird little twists here and there. I think that's the thing with really... Mario. He's always had the same villains. He's always had like not the exact same look, but a very similar look.
It's really like the biggest departure, I guess you could say, for Mario was like Sunshine.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest departure. And what they do for that, well, at least they added Yoshi back in it, and then I think that there's like
and then Yoshi can't swim. That was always the weirdest part.
That and like you never got green Yoshi. It was always like a weird random colored Yoshi. Yeah.
But
I feel like I'm nitpicking when I get to that part, but yeah.
Yeah,
I want my green Yoshi, like the Yoshi Klux Klan or whatever. Only green.
Yeah, that's our only green Yoshi, Jesus. But what was I gonna say here? Going with all that stuff. Oh, it's like with the okay. I think that new Sonic game, I think that might be a good safe way to go. But the only thing that I wish that wasn't in there is they're doing the thing where like we're gonna do some take some retro levels and then update them. It's like no, just make brand new levels. Don't do that kind of. Generations, that was fine because that was like the whole concept of the game was like, hey, let's just go through all Sonic's history. And it's like cool. But I think that if you're going to make a full-on brand new game like that should be literally Sonic 5. Like, make that Sonic 5. Even if you don't call it Sonic 5, make it Sonic 5. Don't You know what I mean? Don't rehash some stuff. I mean, I'm not saying maybe. I mean, not saying those levels might not be cool, but like I just want full on brand new Sonic.
Well, I feel like the first level, it starts off looking very familiar because I actually watched a playthrough on it one time. It starts off looking like, okay, this is Green Hill Zone, and then quickly it slowly changes. Like, oh, that's different. That's different. Oh, what's this over here? And it looks like it's in the same area, but a different kind of definitely a different kind of course, and like a weird fusion of Green Hill Zone and Emerald Zone from number 2. So they're doing like the second generations, which is like, I guess they only showed a little bit of that, but they have 2 games coming out. There's Sonic Mania and then the new generations, which I think it's called Sonic All Force or something like that, or Freedom Force, something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, because then they're gonna try like a new 3D one to see how that kind of all pans out. I hope the best. I always hope the best for Sega. It's like one of those ones. You know what I mean? It's like, because here's the thing. If they can finally make a really badass Sonic game that everybody goes out and buy, well, then we might actually get a Shinobi, we might get a Streets of Rage, and we might get all this other stuff that we all want. But, and it's that thing, though. It's like, I just feel like, okay, you're Sega. I mean, even if you are still, like, sort of in debt, but Sega's got to be doing pretty good by now. Because, you know, there's a lot of big games that come out, and you don't really think about them being Sega games. Then you go, oh, Sega's on the back of that cover. You know what I mean? Like Bayonetta, that's a Sega game. You don't think of that being a Sega game, but it's like, oh, look, Sega, published this thing. So it's like, okay, they got to be making some money where it's like, I mean, how expensive is it to hire out one of those like 10-guy indie teams to make you a Streets of Rage game? Like, here's a perfect example. Grab those guys that made Mother Russia Bleeds, because clearly they love Streets of Rage, and say, hey, you want to make Streets of Rage 5 or 4? You know what I mean? Like, why not? Like, I bet you those guys would be more than happy to do it, because clearly they love that game so much that they want to make their own.
They're probably doing, I mean, I'm guessing they're probably leading up to that with this new Sonic Mania game, because even though that's more of that dude like did a re-release for it for like tablets and the iPhone, I guarantee you they're probably kind of looking at something similar. Like, well, not everybody remembers Streets of Rage like other folks do, but we'll like to maybe work our way up to that. Let's try the safe one. Let's try Sonic first.
Yeah, no, and I think, I mean, that's definitely what they're doing, and hopefully that leads to that next level. I know, it's just one of those ones, like, you see all these great properties. I mean, Nintendo can sometimes be a little bit, like, they have that little bit issue, too, where you're like, if you guys can't make them all, just get, like, a really good company and sort of, like, farm it out like you did with Metroid Prime, or something like that, or get Silicon Knights, like when they did Eternal Darkness, and, they did Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, like, I think that company has like some weird something happened to that one. But you know what I mean? Like at the same time, it's just like find somebody, hire them out, have them make a sweet game that you're not going to have time to make because you're focused on Mario and Zelda and so on. And get these other series out there. It's like, like Nintendo has the same thing too. It's like, come on, dude, where the heck's the next F-Zero? Where's the next Metroid? You know what I mean? Like, here's these big ones. They're like, yeah, well, those ones don't sell nearly as much.
Yeah.
Huh? Why do you think we're not making them? Well, okay, but still. But then you'll see it's like, yeah, but now you're making some game like ARMS. And it's like, don't get me wrong, it's probably fun, but it's like, I'd rather have, and I know Nintendo's not always, they're not really about like nostalgic as much. They still always.
That's what Mario's all about, and Zelda's all about, in my opinion.
Well, like those two, it's because they're like
they're about like for a long time. Yeah, I guess I'm told that Breath of the Wild mixes it up. For a while though, Zelda was all about kind of like patterns and kind of following. Okay, this is the Forest Temple, this is the Water Temple, that's the Fire Temple. Get this item to open that door. And I know that's just more of a kind of particular genre, but Zelda had a lot of things that kind of started that and kind of kept it going.
Yeah, and people like they always point that out, and it's like, dude, every single one of the Zelda games was pretty much still different.
They're all different from one another. Like this one's kind of like this one's all about sailboating. This one has that whole dark world, regular world thing. They all have different quirks about them that make them stand out. That's definitely true.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones. I mean, like until we start getting like, unless Zelda was like in space or something like that, it's like we don't really. It's like what, you're not gonna have trees in there or something like that, and you're not gonna have water. That to me was always like such a weird complaint that people had. They're like, oh,
I'm not making a complaint. I'm just saying that they always had. I know there are those that do complain about that, but I'm just saying there's definitely like Zelda games definitely follow a pattern for a while, but it seems like Breath of the Wild is kind of going back to old school Zelda, which seems kind of fresher in some ways.
It is. Well, it's kind of weird because it's like really that one's actually, it actually doesn't feel nearly as like. I like the game a lot, but it actually feels not. I don't know, not as unique as some of the other ones were in the past. It's more just like I like the play controls and the way that it's almost. It sounds weird, but it reminds me of Metal Gear Solid 5, like where it plays like super amazing, but it's much better than 5, but. I feel like it's almost still a little bit limiting because the only downfall of that game is it just feels like there's literally instead of doing like the forest temple, the water temple, and all that kind of stuff, you get one ginormous large temple, which is like sort of like robot magic, and that's like the entire theme of everything.
Well, they have the different four beasts or whatever, right?
Yeah, they're all the same though. They're all like the robot magic. Everything's in that style, and all the shrines are in the robot magic style. So it's like, don't get me wrong, it's cool, but like I will say that like after kind of like you go through the bit, it's like it's neat at first, and then after a while you're like, you know what, what'd be cool here is a dark temple or something.
Something with more of a theme rather than just kind of the same old like robot interior.
Yeah, because everything's robot interior. Don't get me wrong, they still do a good job on it, but I think by the people complaining about like I fucking hate forest and I hate water and I hate dark, like they listen to those people almost a little too hard, and instead they're like, oh, you know what? We'll give you robot magic, huh? You never seen that before, have you? So it's like, and then they're like, you know what?
Like we're gonna do? They just reached into a hat, like, okay, robot. All right, another one. Please don't be AIDS. Please don't be AIDS. Magic. Okay.
And that's the thing though, is they stick with like the robot magic the whole way through. So it's like, and that's kind of how I feel. It's like the game's like, once again, plays awesome, and I like the big open world and everything like that. But I would have been like a little bit more excited if there was just a little bit more diversity as far as those temples go. Because after like, the downfall of that game is there's so many of them that after a while it's just like, okay, let's get this shit done. Gotta clock in my time card at the end of this. Like you almost feel like you get to the point where it's like it's still fun, but it's like you almost feel like, okay, now I should. Almost like the game could be either shorter or add more stuff. Technically, they could just take away more of the shrines at the end of the day.
Have you beaten does the shrine stuff just make it feel kind of like busy work?
Yeah, after a while. I mean, they're cool, but there's 120 of them.
Oh,
so it's
Jesus, fuck!
It's like one of those
and you
ones
have to do
like
those to get the Master Sword, right?
Nah, well, yeah, I guess you do technically. You pretty much have to do them so you get your heart pieces and stamina things. And to get the Master Sword, you just have to have like 12 hearts or something like that. So it's one of those ones, like, instead of having that many shrines, they could have minused off, like, 40 of them and just added, like, 2 or 3 more temples. That would have been way more exciting, I think. Because the shrines, it's like, they're cool, don't get me wrong, but they're just, like... And then, some of them are really well thought out, but then after a while, there's some of them that are kind of the same thing over and over. It's just, like, an alteration of it, and you're like, okay.
Can I give a honest reply to something I don't think I've ever told anybody regarding Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
I was cool with the temples, but when I actually got to a new temple, that was kind of one of my least favorite parts. I always just kind of liked being out in the open world and exploring all that and coming across different things. When I get to the temple, everything feels so much more confined.
Well, I think the Temple 2 is always like, okay, let's punch in the time card. We gotta get this done. And I mean, like, I do kind of agree there too sometimes. I don't know, like the older, like when I was younger, I liked the temples less, but as I got kind of older, it's like, okay, like I appreciate sort of the temples. But it's one of those ones, the second that the temples are kind of taken away from you, you kind of realize you're like, oh, I guess I like the temples more than I thought.
Rolling Stones don't know what you got till it's gone. Starts to play.
Yeah, and it's
like that's Cinderella. What the fuck am I thinking about?
Cinderella.
I'm thinking.
That's like such a weird one too. It's like, oh, Rolling Stones, or oh no, that's Cinderella.
I
always get those two
even
confused.
Even though I said that, well, that's the lyrics to that, but the melody can't always get what you want. Came in.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was thinking that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
But it's one of those ones. I mean, don't get me wrong. Breath of the Wild still is amazing. Like some people they're like, it's the best Zelda game ever, and I was like, I don't know about that. If I had to rank it in like 3D Zeldas, like my favorite, it'd probably be like number 5. I mean, like I think I like a lot more of the other ones. Maybe number 4 or something like that. I like Skyward Sword and I like Ocarina of Time much more. I'll say I like it more than Majora's Mask, but Majora's Mask is one of those games. I think like the concept and everything in it is totally amazing. I just think it's the structure of the game sometimes can get a little bit frustrating. I think the older you get, the more and more of it feels like a little bit of a hassle. Like, oh, okay, I got to do this, and that. Then I got to reset time and then go re-pick up this, and that. And then I got to beat this boss 3 times over throughout this game because I have to get the, what I mean? Like that kind of gets kind of old. But like I think just the world and how dark it is, I like all that element to it.
Skull Kid with the Majora Mask, that right there, I think it's one of the coolest looking Zelda villains, definitely.
Well, it's like they got like the manga of Majora's Mask. It's like that's almost like the perfect way to like experience Majora's Mask. It's like you get the story, but without having to like repeat too much of the stuff. But but yeah, it's other than that, it's like and I'll say this: I probably like Breath of the Wild more than I like Wind Waker. Like I like Wind Waker, but that Zelda's never like I always enjoyed it, but just it didn't stick out to me like Probably because it's like just that time period. It's like, okay, goes back
Too
to that.
much
Even
of
though,
you
like,
being just kind of holding on, like, fuck, I don't care.
yeah, it's just, yeah, it is a really fun game. I'm not gonna say this, but you know what I mean. It's just you know, it's got like the weird
From
elements
Rocky Balboa for a second.
yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know what was going on, but well, I know where this is leading. We got to Zelda. Oh, I think we're talking. What the hell were we talking about? We're talking about series that they don't. Oh, the nostalgia thing on Nintendo. Well, Nintendo, it's like at the same time they feel like they always want to make something fresh, and they don't really want to like excluding the new Super Mario Bros. Is the only time where they feel like, oh, we can retread this a lot. But a lot of times it feels like they always want to kind of go the fresh route, and you know that's where they come out with series like Pikmin, where you know, and every time they always come out with those series, it doesn't matter like the last like 30 years or 25 years or so, they always come out with the series, and everybody always looks like, who the fuck wants to play Pikmin? You know, and then you play the game, you're like, oh, it's a pretty fun game. I actually really like it. But you know, and I think in the back of everybody's minds, like that could have been, you know, the next Metroid game, or that could have been the next, you know, whatever.
I would. This might seem a little kind of like, you know, tailor make something for me, but I feel like I kind of like Nintendo to kind of like do something around the lines of a science fiction adventure game that kind of walks the line between that kind of Legend of Zelda lightheartedness and kind of whimsy, yet has kind of that like Metroid or Star Fox 64 kind of environment, you know?
Well, and because that's what then that almost even just sounds like a Metroid game in itself, because that's what I love about because when I was playing Breath of the Wild, the first thing I thought it was like, dude, take this same engine but make it a Metroid game.
Yeah,
so
that'd be cool.
Like, and make it like a third, you know, because I think Metroid still works really well in third person. Like, you don't have to have it in first person. Don't get me wrong, I like Metroid Prime a lot, but I think third person is almost a little bit more ideal for Metroid. Like, because I'm like, dude, just picture that you land on a planet, and you could even have multiple planets if you wanted to, or you could just have one giant planet and just have different like things like that. But I'm like, dude, that'd be so sick with Metroid running around, because at the end of the day, Metroid is literally Legend of Zelda in space and mostly 2D, but they play identical. You know what I mean? Instead of, you know, in Metroid, you're always like looking for like the next weapon that will help you get to the next area. You're always getting, you know, instead of getting heart pieces, you get like little power-ups of energy tanks, and that gives you your health. I mean, everything in Metroid's like pretty much identical to Zelda, just on a 2D environment. And it's like, dude, I'm like, dude, I thought about Breath of the Wild. I'm like, dude, think how sick this would be as Metroid. Like, you could run around, you'd have all your Metroid abilities instead. I'm like, dude, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I could see that. I'd definitely be down for that. I actually never played a lot of Metroid. I liked what I did play of it, but never really played much of it, so, yeah.
Well, Metroid was one of those series, like, I played it, and then, like, all of a sudden it was like I remember, like, I just kind of, like, it's sort of recently, because back in the day, I didn't really play it a whole lot, more knew what it was, and I think Metroid Prime was kind of, like, the first time I was like, oh, okay, I'll get Metroid Prime, this seems pretty cool, and then from, like, that point on, I just, like, went and just played, like, every single one of them. It was like, oh, I love these games so much, and I'll say that's top 5 favorite series of all time is Metroid.
It's kind of weird. You know how we said that some episodes back, like a good, like maybe at least 6 months back, we said how Legend seems kind of like the Legend of Zelda movie?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if, like, it's kind of weird how, like, that was made by Ridley Scott, and one of the biggest inspirations for Metroid is Alien.
I know, so Ridley Scott, so what you're saying is Ridley Scott should just start directing Nintendo
He should just
stuff.
direct the next Mario movie. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Or the Zelda movie, or the Metroid movie, or the combination
Kirby movie, yeah.
The Kirby movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's like, yeah, you look at, like, the Breath of the Wild.
Michael Pena to play Kirby.
Michael Pena to play Kirby, that'd be awesome.
Spray paint him pink.
Have him run around, have him just get kind of fatter and everything like that, and that's about it.
You do a good job, don't get me wrong. There'd be controversial, like you know, complaints for, so we're getting a Mexican guy to play Kirby? That's not the Kirby I know.
Well, then it's like, well, you could get like some black guy to play like Kirby's little, like, that little ball thing that rolls around after him. God, I can't remember what his name was, but it's just like a big black ball.
Waddle Dee?
No, not Waddle Dee. Waddle Dee's one of the enemies.
But he eventually becomes good in one of them, right? Maybe not. I don't know.
But
yeah.
If he does, well, this actually technically comes from Kirby 3 for Super Nintendo. It's like if you have a second controller plugged in, you can press start.
Woodbine to play Meta Knight.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
That'd be just a weird, like that's the choice of the movie they went with. Like, which one are you gonna make? Well, we're gonna make a Kirby movie, and it's gonna be live action, but they're gonna look all like the characters actually are.
Or what I was just even thinking, like, they just try and they're like, we're gonna try and pass this off as very serious. So like they're wearing like they're humans, but they're wearing like it's like kind of the sellout movie sort of like we're just kind of like we're trying to capture the spirit. No, fuck that. Just make the actual thing. Make them actually a round ball.
Would be like so like yeah like Bokeem Woodbine's like wearing like a big old armored suit with giant wings. Well, that guy actually could look kind of cool. Like give it
that
like
would look cool.
Good.
Meta Knight would
give
look
it like
cool.
almost like a Final Fantasy look, but it's like Kirby.
So what would Michael just like almost like a
He's
pink,
just got this
like
pink jumpsuit on.
And
like looks so everybody else is wearing like knights and armor like fantasy stuff. He's got this guy running around in a pink jumpsuit, sucking people in.
Because you could still make King DDD look cool because he could just be like this giant like humanoid raven thing with a hammer with a hunch. It looks like
Make him like
it looks
have the Rock play him.
Or even that'd be cool. But or he could look like something kind of creepy, like out of the Muppet movie. Not the Muppet movie, but it's a Muppet movie. Not Labyrinth, Dark Crystal. Dark Crystal.
I got you.
Dark Crystal. How they had those weird, freaky looking bird things. You can make them look like a buff version of that walks around with a giant hammer. So. No, that'd be. Don't worry. I'm not like hashtag Kirby. Yes, I'm not doing that. Everybody just flood that
hashtag Kirby for sure. Yeah, come on. Like, who doesn't want the Kirby movie? That sounds amazing.
I would do that. Here's the thing. I'd be down for that. I just don't want to get off the floor.
No, well, yeah, it's tough to sell a Kirby game. It seems like nowadays
it would have to be like a CG movie. I mean, the only thing is, I could imagine everybody how you would do them, like in some kind of like pseudo fantasy kind of world. But the only one that gets hard to imagine is Kirby. I can imagine Meta Knight. I can imagine.
Well, Meta Knight sounds badass. When I start thinking of like what Meta Knight would look like, I'm like, oh, dude, that looks sick. I picture like Final Fantasy 15 style graphics.
Woodbine and some badass armor and bat wings, has that fucking sword. Like King DD looking like a big ass scary bird in red robes dragging a fucking hammer with a hunch looking all sinister. You got like there's the painter lady. She can make her look kind of all like worldly traveler, and whenever she paints comes off the screen. So and kind of give it like a weird ink, like that Street Fighter action, like when Street Fighter 4, whenever they do that special combo, has that weird ink splash kind of.
Oh yeah, like kind of splashes out and everything.
Look. Yeah, so I could think of all this cool stuff you can do to make that movie look good. I just can't think of what would make Kirby look good other than like a pink ball. Just get a pink ball, just Michael Pena's head with like 2 red shoes and like little stubby arms.
Yeah, you got a little mustache and everything too.
Fuck yeah. You gotta sell this on something. Everyone's favorite character from Ant-Man is Michael Pena.
That's true. Well, he's like good in like anything. Like whenever he's in something, you're like, oh yeah, he's probably gonna be a real good character. It's like kind of like I wanted to go see that Chips movie when it was in theaters, and then it had like stupid like odd times where I was like, crap, I can't see that because once I kind of heard that what's the other main character in the movie?
I forget that actor's name, but he's like I think he wrote and directed the movie.
Yeah, that when I heard that, and then like because he was on the Nerdist, and then he said, oh yeah, I wrote and directed the movie. He's like, and then when he said that, he's like, okay, it's not like we're not doing it as a spoof, we're taking it serious. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because, the trailer kind of makes it out that, like, they could be making fun of it, or they could be actually legitimately enjoying, like, that show and wanting to make something cool out of it. And once I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because speaking of, like, going back to the intro, like, Chips was one of those shows. I watched it on TV Land. I saw many of episodes of that back in the day. So, like, I knew all about it. But sometimes when those movies come out, I'm always iffy. It's like, are they going to be, did they really like the show? Or are they going to kind of, like, sort of mock it tongue-in-cheek style? And that's what I always get kind of, that's almost like what I get afraid of. But, I look at like Dukes of Hazzard. That was like a perfect example of like how you make you take a TV show, you make a really sweet modern version of it, but it still does it very, does it justice.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I sometimes even think some of the characters are actually even kind of better because like I kind of like, Burt Reynolds as Boss Hogg. Like one that makes sense because, he's smoking the band, but I liked how he was like almost like a more serious character because, in Dukes of Hazzard, he's always Boss Hogg was like, oh, those Duke boys, I'll get them again this time. And they're almost like a bumbling idiot. It's like, how is this guy not dead yet from his like own like mistakes?
Mm-hmm. Like one day he just tripped down the stairs.
And then Roscoe was always even more like retarded, like what I mean. So I like actually making Roscoe kind of like creepy and evil and almost rapey. And I think those are like I like those elements of it. Like, and some people don't like the Dukes of Hazzard movie, but I look at that as like, dude, that was like, you sort of almost combined multiple elements. You give it like a Fast and the Furiousness because it's a car thing. You got your classic Dukes of Hazzardness, but then you throw modern characters in there. So I think the choice they chose, Johnny Knoxville and
Sean William Scott.
Perfect fucking choices. You give it a mix of like bluegrass, but then you also throw in some classic rock because that would make sense for like modern. I will say Jessica Simpson was always kind of like the one like it's not. I don't think that she does as good a job as she can, but that always felt a little bit weird. It's like, you probably should have got someone with dark hair, but whatever. Other than that, though, I think that's a pretty good example of how to do a great TV movie.
Yeah, I was thinking about like a little bit ago. I was thinking because we're talking about like movie like parody, not parodies, but movie remakes and all that. I was thinking because some time back we were talking about the Sonic the Hedgehog movie if that ever comes back, and I was thinking what would be the sellout Sonic movie? Not like the one that like okay, here's one that's pretty close. Here's one that I would like to see like Edgar Wright or Matthew Vaughn or someone like that make. I'm thinking what would be the sellout one? Like would that be like a kid who does a lot of drag racing comes across a Chaos Emerald or some shit like that, and then like
you mean like one where it's like his name's just Sonic?
Oh, not even that.
He's just got like spiky hair or whatever. It's like but it's like just live action. Like one of those ones that they would have made like at the time period. Were like, well, we can't do any of this like in CG, so we'll just kind of do like almost like an adaptation.
I don't know how, but I was
just almost like inspired by Sonic.
Not that. I was literally thinking kind of like I don't know how my mind drifted onto this. Like, what would be the realistic? Not me like saying like Michael Pena's Kirby, the R-rated Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Nothing like that. Like I was thinking the realistic. Like what's the one that actually might possibly get made? Not saying it would be good, not saying it should be made. And I was just thinking it gets more ridiculous the more I think about it, but it'd probably happen. I was thinking like if they're like doing like the 90s, like the 1997 movie where it's kind of like, okay, we can't have a movie about a fucking hedgehog, so it's going to be about like this kid who befriends a hedgehog, like that type of shit,
Well, I was also still going down like the live action one where it's like, okay, and Tails is like his mechanic instead of having like he's just got twin ponytails.
It's just he has like a mullet ponytail.
Yeah, he's got a mullet, but it's like two ponytails that come down, or maybe he's like even got like it's braided or something weird like that.
Knuckles is like a kid.
Knuckles is just this black guy with dreadlocks, and he's wearing like a red shirt.
Gets into a bunch of fist fights at school.
Yeah, exactly. See, I can picture it kind of like this sounds so weird, but it's like almost like it's so like almost like odd that like if somebody did this as like a little short, that might be kind of fun just to watch. It's like okay, it sounds almost like you would make like in high school where you're like, you know what, we can't actually make
Sonic
a Sonic the Hedgehog, but here we got a red shirt. Okay, well we don't have a black friend, but we got a Mexican friend. We'll get him like a dreadlocks wigs. We got, you know what I mean? Like you would piece it together.
Sonic the Human.
Yeah, Sonic the Human. He's got like his Fast and the Furious car.
I was thinking it would just be something like the kid comes across like you gotta make it sad, you gotta make it dramatic, or not for the moment, just to get the points. Like the kid's mom just broke up with like with his dad or whatever, so he doesn't get along with his stepdad, so he goes out drag racing, and he has
his stepdad comes home, he's just drinking, and he beats him to death, or not to death. He beats
he's over.
He beats him nearly to death. And
guess I wasn't quick enough.
Out. He chucks his corpse like in a dumpster behind a bar, and that's where Sonic finds him.
That just happens. That's how the movie opens up. He just fucking beats the kid to death, chucks him in the corpse, and just Sonic just walks by the fucking dumpster. That first part had nothing to do with the rest of the movie. It was just like from there, just
Sonic just comes out of the same bar, or whatever.
Man, I still haven't found those Chaos Emeralds.
Oh, whoa, what's this right here? Whoa, it's a kid.
He just reaches into his like pocket, like shuffling through his wallet, like, oh, a Chaos Emerald, cool. Takes off. Just totally pickpockets this dead kid at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's not gonna need these. Oh, he's got a chili dog in his back pocket.
Awesome.
But well, it's like, yeah, I feel like they would. Because, I mean, that was kind of like how Sonic... Even as a kid, when I saw Sonic X, I was like, why the fuck is there that kid there? Like, I don't need that kid. And, it's like some adult would try to explain to you. He's like, well, he's like, he's there, so you have somebody to relate to. Be like, bull fucking shit. I can relate to Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. I don't need no fucking kid.
They can talk.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one of those ones, like, the relatable character thing's always weird. I mean, it makes sense. Like, in that late 90s, early 2000s, for some reason, producers in the back of their head thought that you always had to have a main character that related to the audience. And it'd be interesting to find what was the main show that somebody, like, pulled. It's like, oh, that fucking worked. We got to do that for everything else. You know what I mean? Like,
was it maybe Casper? Because I remember that one actually did get genuinely emotional. That movie was surprisingly kind of sad.
Like, kids can always relate to dead kids.
Well, because you think about it, it's like, Oh yeah, he was a boy that died. And then you
Well, he
kind of
looks
threw in
like,
this.
and how did he die? Oh, well, his father beat him to death and chucked his body in a dumpster behind a bar.
Oh no, it was something sadder than that. He's just like, I got a sled, and I just kept on sledding, and I had a lot of fun. Then it got cold, and then I couldn't. I never woke. I went to sleep. I never woke up. Just like, fuck. And Christina Ricci is there, just like, oh wow, that's sad.
That's sad. It wasn't the story where your father beat you. No, no, my father was actually really nice, except for he didn't want to go out in the snow. There was one thing my father hated was snow.
He's like, that was the one place my father couldn't get me, was out in the snow. Just sledding out.
So I sledded away so I wouldn't get beat. So by sledding, it was my escape. But then I realized I couldn't make it back.
It was my true release. Away from my father, where I haunted him till he killed himself. And if you kill yourself, you don't come back as a ghost. Jesus, Casper, that got fucking dark. There's a reason I didn't go up to heaven.
Yeah, I'm trapped in purgatory. But this was what's like, I think about like the cartoons. Okay, what leads us to make that sort of choice where they're like, oh fuck, make a Batman Beyond. You know why? Because Batman's too old. We can't have old people relate to children. You know what I mean? Let's make fucking X-Men Evolution. Fuck those 30-year-olds. We don't want kids watching a bunch of 30-year-olds like deal with problems. Make it high school. You know what I mean? Like, oh, and then we start going to all kinds of other stuff too, like Sonic. You know, like we're making a new Sonic show. Well, fucking, they can't relate to a blue animal. Like, what are we, fucking Neanderthals? Put a kid in there.
Yeah, I don't know what it is what made people do that.
It's like there was a time period where they did all that. You could probably even say like that's even how like Teen Titans sort of comes about and all kinds of other things.
Teen
at that
Titans,
time
they seem to even make them younger.
Yeah, well, Teen Titans even younger, but like I don't know, maybe it was an anime thing too, because you know what I mean. Like a lot of those anime shows that they started shoveling over, like in the late '90s, they were always about 10-year-old boys, about 10-year-old boys,
and they're monsters. Yeah,
yeah, there's monsters, and maybe that was just kind of maybe they're like, you know what. But the weird thing though is that it can't be that necessarily because I think I was thinking like maybe Pokemon was the one that did it, but I'm like no, because by the time Pokemon came out, I mean obviously Batman Beyond was already a work in progress, so it's like, and that came out like right afterwards anyway, so it's like that's obviously they were thinking about that for a couple years prior.
I'm thinking more of like live action movies that kind of had the relatable character thing, had the relatable kid thing. I mean, not trying to like underplay one of your favorite movies, but I'm thinking back, like, or maybe it's not even so much a Jurassic Park thing as much of a Spielberg thing, but plopping in a kid into one of these situations, because I think that's why Jurassic Park works so well, because you could either envision yourself as the kid or you can envision yourself as Grant.
Or if you're a kid, you're definitely envisioning yourself as Grant. Like that's kind of funny. Like I think about that as a kid watching Jurassic Park. That was who I was like, oh my god, Grant.
I fucking hate kids too.
Exactly. Like this guy, I can relate to this guy. Like I was never one of those people that generally was like, oh man, I see myself so much as that kid. Like I'll use another example. Last Action Hero, same year. That movie right there, like to me, having the relatable kid character in it, I think that's totally fine because I mean the way that movie's structured is that supposed to be like, hey, are you like a 13-year-old kid that just sits around and watches movies all day long? Yeah. Well, would you want to be in Arnold Schwarzenegger's movie? Well, hell yeah. Like so that makes sense to me in that kind of standard.
I mean, that makes sense right there. I'm just thinking Spielberg did a good job of like whenever he makes like a peril movie, unless it's like something like Munich or something, he's gonna put like a fucking
like
kid,
the relatable kid in there,
like the relatable like Spielberg kid that comes rolling in on a bike, like Yusuf, I told you to stay away from this military plan. Oh come on, Eric, which one? Eric Bana. Come on, Eric Bana. I want to kill some Palestinians with you.
Well, yeah, and I guess there's like, okay, I think like Close Encounters. I mean, there's kids in that one, but like, it's more about
that's definitely about.
That's more about like, hey, are you a father that kind of hates your life and you found that there's space out there and you can go? Fuck it, let's do it.
That movie is totally just kind of like, yo, fuck your kids. He has no problem just getting that ship, like.
He doesn't even think about it. It's like, that's like how bad his life apparently has gotten that he just does not even care. It's not even like he even turns around to look. It's like, space. Fuck it. It's what I always wanted.
Maybe it's a holdover from E.T. Because I'm thinking about E.T. because that's where you get introduced these kids coming across like this big like secret and like this bit like government coming after him, and then you got these kids in this position, and then he says like, well, that worked in ET. What if I drew kids in like perilous situations in fucking Jurassic Park? And I think that almost kind of maybe just carried on from there. I mean, there's probably always been like kids and adventure movies. I'm just thinking
Well,
about
yeah, there's
mainstream
always
movies like that.
I don't know. I still don't feel like that relates to the cartoons though. I'm trying to pinpoint like what was. I mean, here's one
It's
that
probably
might
just
be.
it's probably just strictly to the point of like the kid, like someone around that age range. That's probably all it really comes down to.
Well, I'm gonna pull this one. I think it might be Power Rangers. Might be a good example because okay, even though they're teenagers, but like
With attitude.
yeah, with attitude, but they're younger though. You know what I mean? It's not like okay, because at that time period, like once again, we're back in the early '90s. You got Batman and Power Rangers, and you know what I mean? Like that was like kind of the main shows. I mean, I guess you could say there's Captain Planet that has kids in it too, where you know they're like, hey, here's you. Where are you from in the world? Are you the black character? Are you the the Mexican with the monkey? Are you the
Mexican with the monkey?
like who are you?
Have you ever seen the Don Cheadle like Captain Planet thing?
Yeah, that one. It came out like 10 years ago or something like that. Even
It's just like he just starts like losing it. He starts like everyone's a tree. He's like starting to go crazy. He's just turning everybody into a tree. The black guy tries to go, he zaps him into trees. He's like, "Come at me, motherfuckers! Come at me!" He loses it on the kids. He's like, "That's what I thought, bitches. You best be."
if we don't, Captain Planet was ones like I always liked, and I think like Captain Planet, like I feel like probably this would work the best is if you did it a comic book, but I would love to see like a serious Captain Planet. Like, and when I say serious, I just mean like somebody who's not trying to tongue in cheek it, like literally who like legitimately enjoys Captain Planet. Because you know what? At the end of the day, Captain Planet stands up for everything good in the world. You know what I mean? People can laugh at him, but it's like, dude, he's literally doing fucking like the Lord's work when it gets down to the end of the day.
There was an episode going back to I think it was last week. We were talking about how they just crowbarred in some hardcore, like like stay in school, kids, and don't do drugs. I remember like because Captain Planet was
don't suck dick. It's the 80s.
Yeah. Don't even make eye
Ronald
contact
Reagan
with them.
says, don't suck dick.
Don't even make eye contact with them. They can still get you that way. Trust me.
If you see a fag, call this number. It's my own personal number to the White House.
1-800 Reagan smash.
Yeah, Reagan. If Reagan finds a fag, he will smash it for you. Reagan smash. Just like freeze frames his like fist into the camera.
The number pops up below.
We will stop AIDS together.
No, there was there was like one where it just like there was like some kid. It was like because every episode was always just something to the effect of like, "Rah, I want to pollute everything." Rah, ha, ha. Why? Because I'm a fucking evil Republican. Rah, 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 rah. Or it'd be like there's the one chick who had like her hair over her face. Like, I'm gonna put out some beauty supply that's actually gonna destroy the environment. Why? Because fuck them. Then
So, yeah,
it
there's pretty much like that show was almost like you think about that's such a counteract to like the 80s environment because it's like literally that she's like the material girl and then you got the evil Republicans.
Like a pig man.
Exactly. Like it's really like that is almost like the show that's like let's fight Reaganism.
But then at the same time though, they had an episode that was totally an episode that took itself very seriously. There was no jokes. I think they were just focused them mostly on school, and the animation was even very different. There's hardly any jokes in it. It was all about like anti-gang warfare, and like one of them was like I'm not sure if it was their brother or a friend, but one of them was involved in like I think the Bloods. Another was involved in the Crips, and they had to kind of like stop him from getting into a big like shootout after school. And like they actually called upon Captain Planet. He's like, "Come now, kids." So after all this very intense, serious shit going on, he's like with our powers combined, like, "Hey kids, take a chill pill. Don't shoot each other." And then all of a sudden, It zooms in on each kid, and they're having like quotes from like Malcolm X and like Martin Luther King playing in their head, and Rosa Parks and all this. And then they get up, they shake each other's hand, like, solved. Simple as that.
Cuts to a Rage Against the Machine song at the end for credits. That might have been a little too early for that.
Something really random, like not just like
like a Bruce Springsteen song.
But not even that. Like a very random like Rage Against the Machine song, like Year of the Boomerang. Down no.
Oh, that might be even like see that'd be cool. Like that wouldn't. I mean, I guess because gosh, Captain Planet was like I just saw an ad. I was reading like the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man ones, and like they had certain ads in there. And it was like they literally had a Captain Planet one where it was like, I don't know if it was like either the season was coming back or if it was like literally like, hey, there's a new show coming out on CBS or something like that. And I was like, oh, what the fuck?
There's some shit that I don't get why people want it back. I mean, I understand that like our favorite thing happens to be an 80-year-old character, But
my favorite thing used to be is like pretty much by this point it's like 110-year-old man.
yeah, but at the same time, because Batman. But at the same time, though, it's proven the test of time. There is longevity to that. Like going back to because there's been so many different versions, and something about that character is stuck around. I don't get why so many people are like, bring back Reading Rainbow. I grew up on Reading Rainbow. Bring that shit back. Now, if it's like, okay, you have a kid now, and you want like your kid to see something you trust, like Reading Rainbow, okay, I kind of get that. But the people who just blatantly were like, bring back Reading Rainbow. I love that show. I'm 35
I want the Christopher
now.
Nolan version of it.
Yeah. It's like, I don't, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't get that shit. Or like how so many people...
And then bring back bananas in pajamas fucking on the stairs. Like,
yeah, bananas
in pajamas.
They're fucking on the stairs. That's not actually the real lyrics.
I don't even remember what the real lyrics are, but like that was one of those shows. Like as a kid,
they're like stomping down the stairs. For some reason, there's one time we were just supposed to start singing "Bananas in Pajamas." Fucking
down the stairs.
Because we just watched the history of violence, and there's that part where Hugo, is it Hugo Weave or
No,
is it Hugo? Oh. Is that his name, Hugo Weaving? No, that's Mr. Anderson. Shit.
Oh yeah, no, it's
Viggo Mortensen is like fucking his wife on the stairs. That was in our mind.
That's right. We were watching. It's so funny. I couldn't remember where that was all traced back to. There's just those shows out there that some people want back for God knows why. And I'll say there's certain things that. It's like almost one's like, okay, I'll say this. I like Captain Planet. I actually did legitimately like that back in the day. And I think that could translate, I'd say something like, it would be a cool, like, little 4 to 6 parter comic book. I think would be kind of a fun way to see Captain Planet. Kind of like, there was those Power Rangers ones that came out from Boom Studios, and they're written by, what the fuck is his name? The guy who wrote for Nightwing New 52.
Kyle Higgins?
Yeah, Kyle Higgins. Dude, those, like, that comic book right there, if you wanted to go back and go, like, I want to remember Power Rangers the way that I think of it in my head, those books will take you there, and they're almost like the perfect way, because it's like a serious version of it, but everybody looks like identical to like 1993. Like everything about it's just like the way you remember it, but now the story's written really well and serious, and it's like perfect.
You can still do that with things. I'm not denying that.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Some things I think like that's almost the perfect medium for some things to work, because it's like you get exactly what you want. You want the nostalgia, but you just almost like want it back with like, in a sense, good writing. Like that's at the end of the day, it's just like just structure it together pretty well. You watch an old Power Rangers episode, and here's the thing: Power Rangers looks awesome. They have cool abilities. Like the concept of it's amazing. But show wise, it's kind of hokey and corny, and I mean, like anything generally that's old in live action and it's TV, it kind of has this little like dilemmas. But I think you could take that still and, go on with it. And that's like Captain Planet. I think you could take Captain Planet. Probably if you went back and watched a Captain Planet episode, it's not like you're going to be like, oh, this is fucking garbage. But, you're going to watch and it's kind of like old Transformers or G.I. Joe episodes. Like, and even as a kid, I always thought G.I. Joe didn't even hold up. Like at 10 years old, it's like, G.I. Joe's really cool. Why doesn't the show not hold up nearly as well as it should?
It's kind of funny how that could happen that way sometimes. Yeah, G.I. Joe was one I never was really into that much in the first place.
Well, as I said, as a kid, I would watch the show, and it's like, I think the characters are cool. I like the concept and everything like that, but like the show itself was almost like, and I think that's the problem with a lot of 80s shows, is it's just like, God, they always win. There seems to be like no conflict really at the end of the day. Nobody fucking dies. Like, and I think it was also, you're already spoiled by like Xmen and Batman and all this other stuff. So once they, you start getting a hold of shows that are a little bit older, you're like, oh, okay. I mean, like Transformers held up well because, you had the movie and you're like, oh, what the fuck? Shit's getting real here. People are dying left and right. They're swearing. They got a badass soundtrack. It's like everything's working here. G.I. Joe, sadly. But see, once again, G.I. Joe, I think it's an amazing concept that I think, you can work over many times over. So, it's like that. But yeah, like Reading Rainbow, though, it's like, that's one of those ones, like, why? I mean, there's some things it's like, I mean, if you're going to make a new, like, kid show for, like, 5-year-olds or something like that, and it's called Reading Rainbow, I mean, I'm not going to say, yeah, but it'd be weird to have, like, a full-on movie, like, trying to bring it out.
I think they're trying to bring it to Netflix or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, once again, if it's a kid show, I'm not gonna. It's like that's almost like if they made like a new Barney. It's like, well, if it's made for 5-year-olds, like, may as well like take that fucking old shit out of here.
Like if it is something to the degree, I mean, I don't really hear this so much, but if it is to the degree, like I think kids should watch this because it was a good show. then okay, I get that, and they kind of want their kids watching something like.
Shut up.
Just waiting for one more bark, like "fuck you."
That's whenever I hear a dog bark, I just hear it's like, I'm a dog, I'm a dog, I'm a dog. Look at me.
I'm a dog, running in circles too.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, look at me, look at me. Someone
I'm
here.
a fucking dog. I'm a fucking dog.
So I always see like the episode like of Dexter's Laboratory where like Dexter gets the
See,
dog to
fuck
talk.
you.
Well, there's a dog. It's like the dog's like literally remembering like, I'm a dog, I'm a dog. Hey man, I'm a dog. What's over here? What's over there? Look at someone over there. He's just like talking like that, and then I love like
It's
the very
thing, a chair. It's the thing.
the thing is thingy. You know, just going on. And I love at the very end of the episode when like the actual owner shows up. He's like, dude, it's my owner. He's like, dude, my dog. I'm a dog. My owner. Whoa. And they both talk like the exact same way.
And I like when they jump out, like, let's go to get food. We'll get food. We'll get food. Jump out, like Dexter stands there, not moving, and
Exactly. Like this like guy had the exact same personality as the dog. But I think it was that time. I don't even know. Now stupid dogs.
you're talking about how some things kind of can do deserve a second chance and kind of come back in a big bad way. Other things, not so much.
Yeah, God, I had something on my mind too.
I was saying how I think something like Reading Rainbow, like that right there, or I don't know, like how many people are butthurt over Legend of the Hidden Temple? Like, well, they don't got the original voice actor that did the voice of the temple. Just like the guy has a big following or something, you know, like that kind of shit, you know.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, I'll say this: Legend of the Temple. That was like one of the few Nickelodeon shows I actually really liked. But that's one of those ones. Like, I just feel like I don't know. You could recreate it. I'm not saying you couldn't make like a really sweet like maze area and put all kinds of brand new stuff in there and everything like that. But at the same time, it's like you could literally just watch an old episode and get you're kind of like, okay, cool. That's what it is. That's what I remember. You know what I mean?
Well, do you want to know what the new Jumanji is going to be starring The Rock?
The one of well, what's it going to be like? Jumanji meets Legend of the Hidden Temple?
Why it's going to be? I think it's going to be more comedically based, but I really don't know. They just showed a screenshot, but they showed The Rock, they showed Karen Gillian, and a couple other people in the middle of the jungle. Apparently, it's not a board game. It's not a board game. It's an old video game cartridge.
That actually sounds kind of cool though. Now that you say that actually sounds kind of cool. But
it's relating to me.
Yeah, like I was like as well as one, like okay, well the Rock's always got my money. It's almost like at the end of the day, it's kind of like oh. You know who needs some money right now? The Rock. He's like, oh god, I got.
I just hope it's not a Journey to the Center of the World type shit.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll say this. Okay, that's one of those ones where it's like, oh no, that actually sounds kind of cool. The only downfall of that movie is got what's his name in it? Kevin Hart, and he's
in it.
Huh?
He's in it.
Yeah, he seems to be in everything now that The Rock seems to come in. And I'll say this. Okay, there's like that Central Intelligence movie with Kevin Hart in it, and that was one of the few movies where okay, he was still a little bit obnoxious, but I felt like he was toned down enough. I mean, the Rock's really what you're there for, but he wasn't too bad there. But sometimes there's some movies that's just like it's almost like he's just a little too obnoxious, and it's almost like I don't know. If he's toned down, he'll probably be decent. You could put up with him. But if he's like just way too obnoxious, sometimes it's hard to watch. But that actually, The Rock, but that actually sounds like a cool concept. I actually like that.
Well, I guess it's almost thinking back on it, because I wonder if like people from our parents' generation ever thought like, what if we got sucked into this board game? And then like, so now I guess the next step up is, what if we got sucked into this video game?
I mean, like logically, it makes sense. You know what I mean? And that to me, like what I kind of like about it is now that doesn't feel like it's a complete remake. It feels more like, oh, okay, it's kind of its own thing. And that I think is kind of cool.
And rather than, I still kind of like the idea, even though, I don't know, I like the idea of things from that world emerging with ours rather than getting sucked into it.
What if it was a Nintendo movie, though, all at the same time, or something like that, where it's like they literally get sucked into like a regular Nintendo, like they get like the full-on license, so that when they come back out, it's more like characters from like like old Nintendo games start coming out, like oh, I guess it's almost like Captain N at the end of the day.
Would it be kind of like something like maybe a good version of Pixels, something kind of like that, but with Nintendo characters?
Exactly, but like instead, you got like Castlevania characters and Contra characters. They get a license for all like those big ones. In a sense, it's like you take like the mini NES, like that's like the perfect example. Like almost like they get sucked into something like that. It's got all these games on there. You got Mario and Zelda and things like that. That could be kind of cool. Or
I think you can make Mario kind of like he's like a short little pixelated version of Mario. He doesn't talk, but they know who he is. You know what I mean? Something kind of like that.
Do that, or you could even do it like once they like say like when they're in the world. Maybe it's even pixelated, but when they come out of it, maybe it's translated into live action.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so they, like, when it comes out, it's like, oh, there's a full-on live-action version of Link, and there's a full-on live-action version. Well, we've seen Dracula before, but you know what I mean? Like, there's these characters, and they're not pixelated when they're in the real world.
Are you saying the Wizard too?
I am. I am saying, like, literally the Wizard mixed in with, like, Last Action Hero, mixed in with, like, I'll say even Pixels, because I think Pixels one's it's a good concept. I never seen the movie, so I can't judge, but it just felt like it maybe just didn't deliver as well as it should have.
Well, here's the thing about Pixels. That should have hooked me in just because the concept alone and just seeing a giant Pac-Man or giant Donkey Kong or Qbert kind of going through the city and all that.
Yeah.
That was one of those things like that should have got me in, and I don't even hate or dislike Adam Sandler, but the cast alone stopped me from seeing the movie because I know what kind of movie it's going to be with that cast.
Okay. Yeah, no, well, that's what I thought too. It's like, yeah, that should have been a movie. Like, well, actually, I'll say this: it sounded weird when I read about the movie. It sounded really cool, and then you kind of saw the trailer. It's like, oh, well, that looks okay.
Yeah, I don't know, just something about it. I mean, I think that's an example of kind of like, here's something that's harkening back to your childhood, but for whatever reason, it just like it's not the same. Sorry, that time is coming past. Maybe it's not even that though. I think it's more of just the execution of it more than anything else. But there definitely are those things like, yeah, not the same. Did you hate it? No. Did you dislike it? No. Just didn't stick.
Well, it's weird. I heard though that speaking of Adam Sandler, that I heard this from multiple sources that latest movie it just came out on Netflix or whatever is like full on amazing. Like people said, like they're like, oh, dude, it's like old school Adam Sandler. So I was like, and here's the thing, I feel kind of bad. It's like Adam Sandler was one of those ones, like, going back to the 90s, that represents that time period so well of, like, things that I really liked. Like, consecutively, it's like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, Airheads, Wedding Singer, Big Daddy, Little Nicky, all these movies, The Waterboys, like, that's such a big part of there. And it's funny because it's like, in time, it's just kind of like, in the mid-2000s, it kind of started to fade away. There were still good ones like Click and, what's the one where he gets all the money?
Mr. Deeds.
Yeah, Mr. Deeds, and so on. So there was still good ones. They weren't probably as as good as some of the 9 ones. And then and like 8 Crazy Nights and things like that. And then it started just kind of fading out to where it's almost like he started doing kind of like more like kid friendly, whatever. And I just kind of like, it's the weird thing is like it's not like I saw like a bad Adam Sandler movie. It's like never again. Like I just one day just kind of stopped watching them, and they just kind of kept coming out and. I've almost got to the point like, I'm like, maybe one of these days I should just sit down and just watch a handful of those ones and just see. Maybe there is some ones that are like really good and you're like, oh, what the fuck? This is like just as good as like Wedding Singer or something like that. And maybe I'm just missing out because I just haven't been paying enough attention to them. It's like, at the end of the day, what's the worst that's going to happen? It's not like you're going to watch out and like Adam Sandler's going to be up there like insulting you like and fucking like breaking the fourth wall. Like, you know what you are? You're a fucking loser. Oh, just... Yeah, you are sitting there watching an Adam Sandler movie. What do you think? You're so fucking special? It's like, why is he talking to me like that?
Oh, this is why the movies have only 2 stars.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's like, at the end of the day, I've kind of thought, like, maybe I should just go and just check out some of them. Like, what the hell? What's the worst that's going to happen?
I was going to say, I feel like Adam Sandler, I feel like that... I can't really pinpoint it. I just stopped watching his movies, but I think something that did happen is people kept on jumping on him and saying, oh, he just does the same old silly accents and, kicking, breaking something, whatever. And then whenever he took a stab at trying to do something serious or grounded, people gave him shit like, you're not that fucking good at it. So then he's like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to do what I'm good at because that always makes money and I always going to work with the people I know and I always going to work with my friends.
Well, yeah, at the end of the day, he's probably on the best time of all. So, you can't complain there. But it's like one of those ones, I don't know why. Like, I don't have a grounded reason of why. I just one day just kind of just stopped watching and just haven't seen there. But I kind of feel like maybe I should. And then for as many people keep telling me, they're like, dude, that fucking new Adam Sandler movie was so good. And it's like I heard that multiple times in like a couple days. So I was like, maybe I should go check it out. Not like I got to spend any money to watch it. Well,
no, yeah. I mean, I'm curious.
$10 a month, other than that.
That's one that's not, that doesn't seem so bad. I'm thinking more things like Jack and Jill. Or,
yeah, that one was kind of weird. I see the cover, and Adam Sandler's got like that face where it's like, Like, and it just, I don't know, it just looks so, that one looks kind of weird. But there was ones like, there was that one, it always kind of like, the trailer kind of intrigued me where it was like he had like a kid like when he was like 12 years old. So he's really like not that much older than his son, like when his son's like 30 something. but he's just kind of like this derelict dad. Like that looked kind of funny to me. I mean, probably I'm not gonna say it's gonna be like this, like, oh my god, this is like that comedy movie that you've never seen, but it still looked kind of like a funny concept. And there, as I said, there's some other ones there too. And I know sometimes some of them, people go, oh yeah, it's funny. It's not like amazing or anything like that, but I don't know.
Just something to kind of keep in mind, I guess. But
yeah, something there. I don't know. This has been like the ultimate, like, remember the 90s when things were kind of fun, and you could go and hang out with the BK kids.
BK kids. There is the kid in the wheelchair. That was probably most like, there's the black, there's like the black kid. There was the kid in the wheelchair. There's the Asian girl. There's the white kid. There was the blonde white kid who was a guy who had the weird sunglasses and a big ass like kind of a mullet and a
backwards head cap, because you got to have the backwards cap. That's.
They had a dog, just a dog that was there. Whatever happened to the BK kids? I wonder.
I don't know. People stopped going to BK, but I don't know. There's just all those good 90s things. I don't know what it is. It's like there was just one of those like 90s.
They're all just all like in their like late 30s now, and like just in a hospital, all like diabetes from eating too much Burger King.
Yeah, and drinking too much soda and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just one of those ones. I don't know. I don't know what struck this like retroness of everything. Maybe it's just like when you just kind of like one of those days where you just run into a bunch of younger people, and all of a sudden it just you get like almost like nostalgia flashbacks of like a time. You're like, I remember being a youth, and when I was a youth, it's like things were much different.
Well, I don't even think it's so much that like, oh, we're so old now, even though we kind of make jokes about that. I think it's just literally we're at the age now where, because for a while it was like, oh, we're young, that's young stuff, and now it's almost kind of like the stuff we grew up on is old enough to where it can be kind of looked back and analyzed to a certain degree, and now we got people from our generation making stuff for us rather than the previous generation making things
for their people.
For people, rather than thinking, well, this is for those kids, this is stuff. Now we're literally making stuff for our own generation. So, I think that out of that, you get a little bit more reflective, and you can't help, and you kind of notice like, wow, it's not that we're super old, but you do notice, oh wow, time has gone by. I'm 30 now. That freaks me out a little bit. But
yeah, in 10 more years, we'll be like, Jared Kripe from down the street.
Yeah,
we're gonna start, and everybody's gonna be looking at us like, no, I don't know any of these people. Like, why do you mention them by full name like I do?
That's an older person thing. I try to avoid that just because people will say me and old Danny Sosa. It's just like I don't fucking know who Danny Sosa. You can just say your friend Dan. Yeah. It's okay,
But you ever have that fear that you'll become that, like, in time? It's like because maybe this is the thing. Maybe your grandpa back in the day was all like, oh, fucking grandparents come by talking about Billy Bob from fucking 1896. Like, I fucking know who he is. And it's like, I wonder if that was the kid. I'm never going to be fucking like them. And then all of a sudden they start doing
I think it's just because, like, you're probably used to talking to the same group of people. So when you immediately think of that person, it just registers like, oh, they know old Bill from down the street. They know old Jebediah.
Yeah, it's like it's weird though, because I mean, like people, you don't even have to like know somebody, and they say that it's like it's just an older person trait. But I kind of wonder, will that just happen as time goes on?
We'll just say it like just say Twitter handles. Oh, at behind the ranch.
Yeah, old Eagle Raptor there. But yeah, just weird things. Well, that's always the funny one too. Is like like let's say like when people like have like their kind of like handles of the internet, and like in the long run when they're like 90 years old, it's like they don't have like their real name like written on like their bed. It just says like, oh, who's the room of this? Oh, well, in here we got Tactical Dave. Does he have a last name? Oh, nobody knows what that is. Just all these different people or something like this. It's like, here's the Paint It Black guys. That's what they're just referred to. They're all put in the same area. Well, yeah, we're a team, so they have to be like grouped together now. But yeah,
here's the Old Man Orange guys.
Oh, yeah, the Old Man Orange guys.
They share a coffin. Fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them. They were cheap back in the day. They're cheap today.
Hey, black guys at least got 3 separate ones.
Well, why'd you put them in like fucking like almost like their Humpty show? I don't know. That was kind of funny. We thought they would have enjoyed the humor too. They put them in like kind of like the gay mannequin positions. But I don't know, just those kind of things like that. I remember like and like, it was like a workout magazine. I remember they had like these like rules of like the gym and everything like that. And they talked about like, thou shall not walk around naked. He's like, you know it when you go in there and you go into the restroom and there's some 80-year-old man that gets out of the shower and just does not care whatsoever about sitting naked on the bench. He's like, and the worst thing too is you know that someday you will become that.
Well, my thing is like we talked about this way in earlier episodes, but like when we did go to the gym, it's not so much the whole like, oh, I'm just gonna walk out of the shower, dry off, and then throw on my boxers. Not even that, which I understand. It's literally the
Ass cheeks on wood.
I'm just gonna walk around. I'm just gonna walk around like this. And there's the guy we literally referred to him as the naked man because he'd be in there for like
45 minutes.
45 minutes just doing whatever, like shaving everything and just kind of walking around. And like I didn't even instigate something. I want to actually like somebody left some like shampoo in there. I'm like, oh, hey man, is this your shampoo? And then it was in the shower. And I'm still fully clothed. This dude just completely ass naked. Just walks up like, oh no, this one's mine over here. I'm like, okay. He literally walks up to me, shows me, see, this is mine right here. Just like, okay, yeah, you don't have to, you're.
They held it down by his like dick. He's like, see, this is mine. You see it? Look.
Look at it. Look at it. Look at it.
That was the guy that wanted you to join his breakdancing club.
Oh, did he? Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
He never asked me himself. He asked, would your friend want to join my breakdancing club? He looks limber.
Which is always so, like, whenever you meet somebody who is already really weird, and then they pull off that, like, oh yeah, guess what I have is a breakdancing club. It's like, that makes about sense. You know what? Now that you say it, I think I could totally picture that.
I like that there is this one total, like, good old boy bro there, and he just hated that guy. He just couldn't stand that dude. And there's this one time, like, because that guy walked around with some weird ass stick. It was like a stick. It looked like a noose. It looked like he had like a noose. It was like he'd stretch. He'd like put his hand through it, have this elastic band, and just stretch it. And like he'd stick the stick somewhere, put his arm or his leg, and then pull it and just do this weird stretching thing. Ember, he just walked out and like the fucking like good old boy, like total bro, drove a muscle car, listened to Nickelback, bald head. Dude sees that, he's just like, just blatantly, no joy or in his face at all, just like, what the hell is that? Oh, it's my. And the other guy had such a weird voice, like, oh, it's my stretch stick. I just it's not so much gay, but just there's something weird going on in his voice. Like I could do a stretch like this, it holds it in place. I gave a couple examples. The guy just stares like, well, that's good for you, and just walks away.
Well, this is one of those kind of guys too that would like, you would catch him like in the ab room, and he would literally have like some like workout DVD on like a portable DVD player, which seemed odd. You know what I mean? Like that's what one's like, oh yeah, you watch that at home. There's nothing wrong with that, but it just seems so weird to bring that into the gym. But what always made me laugh is like you could always know if he was in the restroom and he was naked because you would see about 3 guys with their gym bags just sitting at the table waiting
for him to finish.
Like nobody was gonna go in there because I don't know. No matter what, at the end of the day, I think there is always like some kind of like homophobia like at a gym. Like I don't know why it is, but there is just that sort of thing. There's a man who's naked in there. I am not to be seen with him.
It's not even that. It's not even kind of like, I know, there's dicks in the gym. I get that. There's dicks in the... But it's more like one of those things, it's literally like, when the dude's just kind of like... Because it wasn't like he would just go in the corner and stay in that corner. He'd be walking around like...
Like it's his own personal house.
I'm gonna go weigh myself. Then he's gonna like stand in the... it was a very small, this is getting too personal for folks probably, but it was a very small, like, changing room. So just like all the sinks are in one spot, all the showers in one spot. And so he just kind of like almost like, taking his time, doing whatever the fuck it is he's doing, bleaching his asshole or whatever. And then just like, okay, time to just wait for that to be done. Then there'd be the old dudes that always just kind of hang out naked in the gym, just waiting in there, just hanging out. And they shoot you this judgmental look like, why aren't you naked, fag?
Yeah, got your clothes on like some kind of woman.
Yeah. Well, afraid to show your man shit? What?
Well, here's the
thing. Your shit?
I'll say
I got my shit right here. Go ahead.
Yeah, look at my dick fucking hanging out. Like, what? You just not too proud of yourself to not have it? Well, I just don't want to. Yeah, that's what I thought. Fucking faggot.
Swing that shit around. Let it be seen. Let it be known.
You know what you need to do? You need to go down to the post office and sign up for the military right now, boy. That's how you're going to learn how to be naked. But it goes back to the naked man. Like, this is what I think made that guy kind of odd. And I've learned this, like, my entire life. There's something about anybody who works, like, the night shifts, like, where they work that graveyard shift. if you do that for too long, you do not become a normal person. Something gets kind of like messed up. And I'm not saying like the naked guy he was a real friendly guy, so I'm not saying anything against that. But everybody out that would come in the gym, they'd be like those people. They're like, oh, I worked from like 2 or like 10 o'clock at night till like 6 in the morning. I think just doing that over and over and over made people really weird and odd. And they had like social disorders and all kinds of stuff. Because there was another guy, he had that same shift, and he was like this guy. He drove like, he had this big truck or whatever, and it was like he was super detailed. Like, I mean, he would be out there with like his armor all wipes, like cleaning it, like really like maintaining it and everything like that. And so he had all these things kind of going on. And I remember like he got all like pissy when he's like, oh man, my mom rode in the truck the other day and like she fucking spilled like some nuts in there. Like I was in there for like 4 hours cleaning this out.
My identity. This truck's my identity. Like
yeah, I remember like he would kind of have this like he would come in, and he would like sit there and he'd talk to me. He's a real nice guy, but he'd like almost have his head like slightly tilted, like looking at me. And this is probably from like working at night. Like he hasn't seen the sun in like days, and
it's like turning like a fucking owl.
Well, I remember because he'd get the point too. Like he would look at me and like he would be like. Because he would look at my car, which was just like an old like 90's Plymouth, and just whatever, I don't care, it's a vehicle, it works, and that's all that mattered. And he'd just be like, why don't you get yourself like a better car? Like, how can you be driving a girl around in a car like that? I'm like,
do you got a girl driving around in your car other than your mom?
Yeah, he's like, well, no, not my $40,000 Chevy or whatever the fuck it is. And it's just like, I don't care. It's fucking got mud on the side of my car. You know why? Because that's a safety thing. You know what I mean? Nobody's gonna fucking rob that car.
Yeah, and plus, like, oh, by the way, I got a girlfriend. Did this guy have a girlfriend? I don't think this guy did. If this guy,
no, he didn't. People that work the graveyard shift generally don't. There's just like, I don't mean to be judgmental, but it's just like everybody I always saw, and it's like in the gym you would catch those people because they would come in at like odd times when nobody else would show up. And it's like the naked man. Lots of times he would like work out like at midnight and things like that, where he could be alone and naked.
I'll say this real quick. For a period in time, I wasn't like totally the weird guy who had the graveyard shift, but I kind of like slipped in and out of that because I worked at a restaurant and I'd be closing up mostly by myself. And sometimes, depending on how busy or how busy it was or whatever, I can get out of there anytime, like early on, like maybe 10:30 if I was very, very quick and there wasn't a whole lot to do and I got an early start. Mm-hmm. Other shit, if it was an insane night, I one time got, as late as 2 o'clock at night. Now that's not like coming home at 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. But that's still late. And that's still a lot of time with you and yourself and your thoughts. And I'm going to say that time in my life, I'm not going to try and sound like it was the darkest time of my life, but it was probably when I was most socially awkward and unaware because I was by myself most of the time with just me and my thoughts and listening to a podcast. So it would almost be kind of like there was some stuff that kind of, you really got some alone time, but too much alone time can make you kind of fucking socially weird. So, and then also it throws off your sleep schedule. So I was never fully like that dude with the pickup truck or the naked man, but there was a period in my life where I was a little bit more off because I was just kind of working inside this kitchen by myself, mopping, closing everything down for 4 hours by myself with no one to talk to.
Yeah, and that is quite a long time to be alone, and then also at night. Now that's not once again, it's not as late to turn you into like a crazy person, but
it's not. It's like sticking your foot. It's like sticking your foot in the door, but not walking in the room.
Yeah, because you'll still be able to go home and wake up at like.
Because there were nights where I got home like
and not be like wake up at 4:30 in the afternoon.
There were nights I got home like at 3 o'clock, because we had like a big like catering gig and I had to do all the dishes for that and do all this other shit. So yeah.
So yeah, there's always those kind of weird things there, but yeah, fear that like graveyardness, unless it's like it's the ones. If you do it once in a while, that's okay. But if it happens to be like literally 5 days a week, it will take a toll on you. I've never seen. Once again, those guys were still friendly enough, but they were just off. And that's the thing, is I know that that's what it was all based off of.
I worked with this one guy for a brief amount of time who worked a graveyard shift as a security guard at a retirement home. And he said, like, dude, I gained it was horrible. I gained 40 pounds in 2 months because your body's just not meant to be up that late. You're really kind of fight because your body needs sunlight. It really is. So most of the day I'd be sleeping and then I kind of most of my days I'd be up, or most of my nights I'd of course be up, and there's not nothing really that healthy open that late at night. So what are you doing? You just, without even thinking, you go into a Starbucks or you go into McDonald's or 7-Eleven,
whatever's open,
and then without realizing it, that becomes your new meal, and it's that kind of shit.
Yeah. So
he said that's the main reason he quit it. He quit that job because it was just like it was destroying his health.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of logical. And I would say there's probably somebody out there who can handle it. Not saying that, somebody will talk big like, I can handle it. Like, stuff. What, you guys a bunch of fucking pussy? Can't work like that. It's like, yeah, but very rarely does anybody turn out normal. And the people that a lot of times, I feel like they lie to themselves when they say they can handle it. Anybody a lot of times says like, oh, I can handle that. No, you're just lying to yourself. You can't. You just don't want to. You feel like you don't want to look like a pussy, but by not, just say it. Just come out. Be a man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's a good place to probably wrap all this stuff at. What we learned in life is that 90s is awesome and don't work that late.
Yeah, some reboots are meant to happen, some aren't.
Exactly. Well, till then, check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, comics, cartoons, movies, and more. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. And if you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. Won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week to Old Man Orange.